One stage, one voice, and a moment that felt bigger than performance itself. As Wang Yibo stood under the lights of May 4th Youth Day, something shifted. But what truly stirred the fandom wasn't just what was seen on stage. It's the quiet question that followed. Who was watching from the shadows? The night unfolded with a quiet intensity, the kind that lingers in the air before something unforgettable happens. The celebration of May 4th Youth Day has always carried meaning. Youth, identity, and the voice of a generation. But this year it felt different, because when Wang Yibo appeared, it wasn't just another appearance. It was a statement, dressed with understated elegance. His presence alone commanded attention. No unnecessary movements, no exaggerated expressions, just calm, controlled, powerful. And then, the music began, a soft opening, almost fragile, as if inviting the audience to lean closer. And when his voice entered, it didn't rush. It settled, deep, steady, real. This wasn't just a song. It felt like a message. Every lyric carried weight. Every note felt intentional, as if he wasn't just singing about the future, he was standing inside it. Fans watching from around the world felt it immediately. There was something in his eyes, something unspoken, a quiet confidence, a growth that couldn't be ignored anymore. Because this was no longer the idol many first fell in love with. This was an artist stepping into a national spotlight, trusted to represent something bigger than himself. And as the performance continued, something even more powerful happened. Silence. Not the absence of sound, but the kind of silence where everyone is listening, holding their breath, afraid to miss a single second. Because deep down, everyone knew this moment mattered. But what no one expected was what would come after. The performance ended, but the feeling didn't. It lingered, like a heartbeat that refused to slow down. Within minutes, clips began circulating. Across platforms, across countries, across languages. Fans weren't just reacting, they were feeling. Words like goosebumps, emotional, proud, flooded every comment section. But beyond the praise, there was something deeper being discussed. A shift. Because Wang Yibo wasn't just delivering a performance. He was carrying responsibility. To stand on that stage on that day, it meant something. It meant recognition. It meant trust. And perhaps it meant that his journey had entered a new chapter. One where his influence stretched far beyond entertainment. Fans who had followed him for years began reflecting. They remember the early days, the challenges, the criticisms, the silence he often chose instead of explanation. And now, here he was. Not louder, not different, but stronger. There's something deeply emotional about watching someone grow without losing themselves. And that's what made this moment hit harder. Because it wasn't just about how far he had come. It was about how much he had endured quietly to get here. But just when fans thought the conversation would stay focused on this powerful milestone, another name began to appear. Softly at first, then everywhere. It started with a simple mention, a comment, a question, a possibility. And then suddenly, it was impossible to ignore. Xiao Zhan. There was no official connection, no confirmed appearance, no shared stage. And yet, his name began to weave its way into the conversation surrounding the night. Not as fact, but as feeling. Fans began expressing something familiar, something that had never truly faded. A connection, not necessarily between two people, but between memories, moments, and emotions that once brought millions together. For many, seeing Wang Yibo on that stage triggered something deeper. A reflection of the past, of a time when two names were often spoken side by side. And even without confirmation, some fans quietly share their thoughts. That perhaps somewhere, somehow, Xiao Zhan might have seen that performance. Not as a headline, not as a statement, but simply as a moment worth witnessing. It's important to understand. This isn't about turning speculation into truth. It's about acknowledging the emotional landscape of a fandom that still remembers. Because sometimes, the most powerful connections aren't the ones we see. They're the ones we feel. And as the conversation continued to grow, one thing became clear. This night had become more than just a performance. It had become a shared emotional experience, one that blurred the line between past and present, reality and memory. As the hours passed, the narrative surrounding the event deepened, not because of new facts, but because of new feelings. Fans weren't just watching a performance anymore. They were revisiting a story, a journey that had evolved, separated, and continued in different directions, and yet somehow still felt connected. Wang Yibo stood firmly in his own light that night. There was no hesitation in his presence, no reliance on the past, only forward movement. And that's what made it even more emotional, because growth often comes with distance, and distance often comes with silence. But silence doesn't always mean absence. Sometimes it means respect. Sometimes it means understanding. And sometimes it simply means that two paths are walking forward separately, yet carrying pieces of the same history. The beauty of that night wasn't in what was confirmed. It was in what was felt, the pride, the nostalgia, the quiet questions that lingered without demanding answers. Because not every story needs closure to be meaningful. Some stories live on in moments like this. Subtle, unspoken, but deeply, undeniably real. And so the lights dimmed. The stage returned to silence. But the echoes of that night, they didn't fade. Wang Yibo had delivered more than a performance. He had created a moment, one that reminded fans why they stayed, why they cared, why they still feel so deeply. And somewhere within that wave of emotion, a quiet thought remained. Not loud, not demanding, just present. About connections that time doesn't erase. About memories that continue to live between the lines of every new chapter. Maybe some questions aren't meant to be answered. Maybe some moments are meant to be felt and held on to just as they are. So now, the question gently returns to you. When you watched that stage, when you heard that voice, did you feel it too? Not just the performance, but something more, something that stayed with you, even after everything else ended.